Hi everyone, my name is Paige and you're watching Elevate Filipino TV. It's the place where you want to be to discover possibilities, unlock your potential so you can finally create a life and a business that you love. Joining me today is my dear friend Yanni Donato. Yanni is the country manager at Canva Philippines, and if you're not familiar with Canva, I would be a little surprised because it's right side by side with Amazon, Airbnb, Uber for its innovation. And Canva is basically a tool that makes graphic design simple for everyone. So hi, Yanni, welcome.
Hi, Paige. Thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to talk to you today.
I'm super excited to have you here, Yanni. And today we have such an important topic, which is all about the key to effective leadership and unlocking your next level or your potential. So here at Elevate Filipino TV, we have been talking a lot about entrepreneurship, jumping into, starting your own business and scaling your business. But for some people, their calling might not be entrepreneurship, right? Their calling might be to be part of an amazing team culture, to be able to support and be part of an amazing movement. Now, I'd love to find out your story, Yanni. How did you manage to land a top position at Canva?
No, that's quite an interesting journey. So I've been with Canva Philippines for 5 years. It's actually, yeah, I'm turning 5 this September, so we call it our Canvaversary. But before that, I studied psychology in college, and then I was raised by two government employees. So I've always been accustomed to the culture, labor laws, employer practices, because my parents both worked in that field. And my sister, who is also my best friend, is an HR manager. So, you could imagine my upbringing was parang corporate, HR.
Yeah.
So I studied college. I studied psychology, and then I landed my first job as an executive search recruiter in this firm in Makati. And then, so just in that job, I was tasked to create like job ads for just to get more candidates applying to our pipeline. So I was Googling, and then I found Canva. Back then, Canva was a baby. It was, I think, 1 year after launching. So I grew fond of the product. And then one day, as I was sourcing candidates on LinkedIn, I saw that Canva Philippines was looking for a recruiter. So I applied since I was a recruiter. And I think 2 weeks in, I got a call from Cliff, our COO, offering me the job. So I had to say yes, Paige. So I said yes right away. So that's how I became Canva Philippines' first recruiter. I joined the team. They were already around 35. And then I saw in the Philippines, 35 in the Philippines, and then I think around 70 in Australia.
Okay.
And then there, I just started seeing the team grow from 35 to 100. But, as we scaled, it's a startup. So we realized that we didn't have an HR team. So I went on to launch Team Happiness, which is what we call HR. And then eventually we wanted to focus on growth and development. So I helped start the Canva University / learning and development team, and then the team, and the construction. Like we even built out floors. So it's many different hats until finally late 2019 was, when I assumed the country manager role, where I was able to play around with a completely new field of product and growth development in the Philippines. So that's a quick version of my journey in Canva.
That's very interesting to hear that from being a recruiter, you actually took the initiative to start certain projects. Did someone particularly ask you to start that, or was it your child brain, I guess?
I think it's a combination of both, right? Like, it's really funny because so I came from an executive search recruit firm. So we all had the processes set, and you just had to do it well. So in Canva, when I started hiring and giving out job offers, I remember I'd ask them, all right, job offer, who's responsible for the contract? And then sort of organically, they just told me, oh, you're going to do that too. Oh, you're going to do that too. So I wouldn't really say it's initiative where, I'm going to do this. It's more finding out that, so you're building this team with them. So there's not really a lot of processes in place. This was my first real exposure in like not being told what to do and really being trusted to like, hey, here's what we need to do, get it done, regardless of how you do it. So there.
You had to muster up the boldness and the courage to actually just say yes, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's really true. I remember an anecdote I like telling is the story of in my first week in Canva, Melanie Perkins, our CEO, messaged me on our team group message thing. So obviously I was so flattered and I was fangirling because it was Mel and she was like welcoming me to the team. And long story short, she said, um, could you help me find 20 copywriters or hire 20 copywriters? So naturally I said, yeah, sure. I mean, I was a recruiter, right? So in my head, like, yeah, that should be easy. So that was a Tuesday. And then I just asked her, oh, when do you need it by? Oh, ideally we can all start by next Tuesday. So she was like,
1 week.
1 week. So I'm like, okay. So then I started asking for, do you have a job description and all these other things that you need to hire someone? And she essentially said, oh, no, we don't have those yet, but I'm happy for you to figure it out and have them all start by Tuesday.
Love it.
So that was it. Like, that was the start of like, oh, that's an introduction to how we do things here.
I love it. So, in your story, I can definitely see the power of taking action. And actually, we had this in our previous conversation, that part of your passion is you want to help educate fellow Filipinos on the importance of having a bias for action. Now, actually, when you had mentioned this, Yanni, after our conversation, I had to Google it because I was like, what does having a bias for action mean? So I would like to find out in your own words, what is having a bias for action?
Sure. So, first I would like to attribute this to a learning so I've gone through a coaching journey. I've been really privileged to go through that through Canva. Basically, having a bias for action is unlocking your potential and unlocking all the things that you can do. And, you know, it's being put in any position or any circumstance or situation, no matter how difficult it is, but making the conscious step to move towards a direction. And movement doesn't always mean solving something, right? Movement can mean moving on, or movement could mean deciding that, all right, this is a mistake, we're gonna drop this and completely start over. Or movement can mean we persist, we continue to do it, and we continue to exert hard work. I just really am a believer of expanding my internal locus of control. So easily you can say a lot of things stop you or limit you from getting things done. But there's always going to be that little window within yourself where you can move and control things. And that's where I always love to operate, is like focus on the things you can control and move. And more often than not, you will succeed or start achieving the things that you need and want to achieve.
I love that you specified, moving forward or moving doesn't necessarily mean solving something. It actually reminds me of a shark. Now, don't quote me on this, but I think I read somewhere that when a shark sleeps, it actually still moves. Like it still moves in the ocean. And so I love that you said, you don't necessarily have to solve something. And I know for me, I remember in my early years as an entrepreneur, what stops me often is, I guess, like information overload. Like, how, even for example, I'm sure a lot of maybe women, I don't know if men can relate to this, but there's a meme that when people, when, for example, their boyfriends or their spouses ask them, hey, where do you want to eat? There's a meme that where women's like, I don't know, you decide, or you know what I mean? Because we often can't make a decision, like we're overloaded. And so you're sharing here that if you tap into that internal locus of control that we have, it's always about moving forward and taking action and realizing that, yeah, there are certain things outside of us that we can't control, but you always have internal power to do something, to shift your reality in one way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't born with that, right? Like this is a mindset like that I had to develop and grow through the experiences I've had, not just in Canva, but even in my personal life. But regardless, and in both aspects of my life, I've proven it to work. And there will always be moments where you just need to take a step back and breathe a little and rest and not do anything. But when I wake up and when I decide to take action, that's the mindset that I apply. So, yeah, and also I also believe, I think it was Picasso said this, everything you can imagine is real. So sometimes when you're really in a roadblock, and it's easy for us to look at what already exists. But I think something also, it's not really a secret sauce, but something that I like doing or I enjoy doing is reinventing things or creating things, because you also have so much resources around you. So if you say that this solution isn't available yet, you just explore the opportunity or the possibility of like, well, what if I create it, or what if I just make it happen from what I have? So those are just some of the things.
So I love that what I liked about what you said is it didn't come naturally for you, and certain environments and situations molded you to develop this muscle of having a bias for action. Now I know, like I mentioned, in my early years as an entrepreneur, I definitely was more of a planner. I like to think about every single step before taking action. But what I learned is that entrepreneurship rewards taking action. Now, what were some of those, I guess, habits that you developed to help you develop that bias for action?
Sure. So maybe in the work setting, I really somewhat like what you said. I really like researching. I really like reading, planning, making lists of what I have to do. And I remember it was a conversation I had with Cliff. Cliff is our CEO, and actually even Mel. Um, Both of them, not they don't just say this, right? But you also see them, watch them grow this company doing these things, where yes, you need to be responsible as an entrepreneur, as a person. You need to plan and move things strategically, but at the same time you need to balance it with just starting. So sometimes a lot of us can get stuck in the level of planning, making sure things are right, not starting before everything is ironed out. But what I've learned in Canva and how we do things is we set crazy big goals every season, every year, as a company, to the groups, to the teams, to the individuals. We have a good strategy to achieve it, but we take the step forward. Like, we don't spend too much time perfecting the draft. What we do is we draft something, we do that, we get feedback, and then we iterate fast. So, it's also like minimum viable product, where you just always need to go back to what your goal is and what your mission is. What's the problem you're trying to solve? If you need to get from point A to point B, the solution is not always you need to build a car. Sometimes you just need a plank with wheels and then push yourself there and go from point A to point B. So we're not afraid to do those things in Canva.
What about in a more personal situation? Can you share a story?
Sure. Personal. Well, I guess when my husband now and I decided to get married, I think that was 2 years ago. We consider ourselves a young couple. So you know how when you decide in taking such a big step like getting married, there are lists that you want to check, like how are you financially, how are your investments, do you have a house, and all these things. So at the beginning it was scary because there was an expectation that I feel like society has set as to what you need to have achieved before you start a family. If we just probably stuck with that list, we probably wouldn't have been married by now, and be busy focusing on ticking off that checkbox and not enjoying married life. So from there, we just decided to, here are the risks that we're willing to take, so we're aware of that. Here are the goals that we've achieved now, and together we decided to commit to, let's just do this. We can do this together. We don't need, these are not prerequisites to get married, like having a house or all these things are not prerequisites. We just knew down what's important to us and pursued that.
I love that. I'm a little teary-eyed when you say that, because I got married when I was 21, and my mom and my mother-in-law at that time, they were like, oh my gosh, don't get married yet. You're too young. You need to have and at that time I just had graduated a few years, and they were like, you gotta have a stable career. You gotta have a house. You gotta have, all these things. So I totally relate to that. And I love that you actually sat down, looked at the risks, and you had that intention to decide, you know what, these things like having house, having this and that, we can accomplish it together. And you're right, it really is all about what matters to you ultimately. And it's more about enjoying and building this life together. So, I mean, gosh, I'm glad you shared that story. That was such a perfect example. And I think a lot of our viewers here would be able to relate to that. I know that the audience that we have are usually between ages of 25 to 45, the
Wow.
majority of them. And so a lot of them are thinking about, I know I have a lot of friends who are still kind of, do I want to get married now or whatnot? Um, but yeah, why would you pause your life for other people's list of expectations? And same with your professional growth. So thank you, Yanni, for sharing that. So I would like to find out, Yanni, in right now, I actually lead a small group of team members. I have my virtual assistant, my digital manager, and also my editor. So we're a team member of less than 5 people, but it's such an important thing for me to be able to maintain positive team culture. And you being part of the head of Canva in the Philippines, you were there to help grow the company from 35 to over 100 now. And now you're managing different teams, and I love that you even shared the team happiness, or was it team happiness? I love that. So I'd like to find out, what is your leadership style, especially when it comes to managing large teams? Because I know, for example, I have other friends who are CEOs and heads of companies, and they're a little scared to actually grow their business, like hire more people and grow their business, because the idea of managing large teams can be overwhelming. So I'd like to find out how you manage it and still maintain a happy team culture.
Well, it is scary. So I'm gonna be the first to say, every day it's still the scariest thing, right? For me at least, because leadership to me is responsibility and service. So every time we hire and every time we grow this team, it's exciting, but it's also really scary because that's a life that you bring into the company, and you want to do well by the team and you want to do right by them and their expectations. So yes, it is really scary. I wouldn't really have anything to define what my leadership style is, but I do have some personal principles that I try to consciously apply whenever I interact with with the teams or lead them to a new goal. One, I think it's really important to be the person to be setting the clear goals for everybody. Um, by that I mean, you just need to provide that mission and that direction as to where you are all heading towards, because that sets the movement, that sets the direction. Number two, I also really am a big fan of improving my communication skills. It's so basic to think about it, but really it's not. There's so much power in effective communication. And it's two things. That's you talking, but it's also you listening. Um, so those are two really important um, um, values that I try to exert when I'm interacting with the team. Um, at the same time, it's more like being bold. It's very easy, and I've been here too in that moment where it's, if you set crazy big goals, it scares you. So when you're feeling scared, it's easy to get stuck as well. So I really like, or I really enjoy rather, immersing myself in new projects, or like immersing myself into the unknown with the team. Like for example, um, when we launched our first major marketing campaign in the Philippines, where we did a billboard last December. We've never done that before. So, really showing the team that you will be there doing it with them. So I was with them and we did the ocular for the billboard and all these different things, and just make it fun. Like it's hard work, but you make it fun. Um, and at the same time, feedback is also really important. And I think this is something that's true across Canva, where, when you're a newbie, you go through an onboarding program, there's actually a feedback workshop there. So we really try to demystify the intimidation that comes with the word feedback. So to us, feedback is both positive, but also things that you can improve. And feedback is not just up, down, it's also down, up. So you want to
That's
be able,
different. I've not heard
yeah,
that.
you want to be able to, and it's hard, right? Like I'm not saying like, hey, give me feedback, I love feedback. Yes, I love it, but it's also really scary because you're asking people to tell you what you've done well, what you've done wrong, and what you need to improve. And that's naturally scary. But the good thing about it is once you see that and once everything's transparent to you, it gives you the opportunity to grow and learn. So those are just some of the things that I think about when I think of myself as a leader.
How do you guys make that part of the, I guess, like a routine or a system? How did you put feedback part of your team system?
In the early days, it was very classroom type. Like we literally globally, we'd get feedback experts and have these experts teach us classroom style. And all right, what is feedback? What are the implications if you don't give feedback, and how do you give feedback effectively? And then eventually we developed that. Canva University team developed that into workshops and modules that you can learn in classroom style or blended learning in terms of reading it in your own time. And then we've normalized it by making it part of the onboarding plan. So literally everyone who joins Canva goes through the feedback workshop, and then we've integrated it in employee milestones. So you get a feedback after your first month, after your third month, after your sixth month, and then regularly after that. And then we also encourage them to give feedback to your coach or your manager in common corporate setup. So there, it's really normalizing it, like education, but at the same time normalizing that everybody gets feedback.
Do you guys call the managers coaches in Canva?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So it's a very deliberate choice to call them coach. So the coach is meant to facilitate and empower you to grow.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feeling.
Yeah, it really is, right? It also makes it, I guess, more just growth focused rather than task focused, where this you do. So there.
Wow, I'm learning so much. And actually, you know, if you think about it, Canva is not that old of a company, right? And for to know that this Canva University you guys have, is it something that it's the onboarding system that you guys have for your team, or
Canva University is a team. So
oh,
in a normal, I'm not saying normal, but in a corporate setup, it's probably more commonly known as a learning and development team. So in Canva, we call them Canva University team. And then in their team is responsible for anything learning and development related. But one of the programs that they're managing is our onboarding program. A couple of other programs they manage our mentoring program, coaching program, coach essentials. So these things that are really meant to equip different members of Canva in the different roles that they have.
I love that. And I actually remember watching an interview that Melanie was in, where she was being interviewed in a like news network or something like that. And she was talking about how she has a person like head of vibe, you know, head of vibe. And it's so fascinating to hear it from your perspective, because I can see just like, you know, how powerful it is to have a positive team culture where someone, even from, you know, from the higher ups all the way down to the new onboarded team members, you're very well focused in the same, in a, you know, one mission. And I absolutely love that. Now, you know, as I wrap up this conversation, Yanni, I would just like to thank you, because I know that, you know, right now, as we're filming this, guys, Yanni is actually pregnant. And I always admire women who are able to stand up and show up their leadership and still tap into their creative style, even while they are pregnant. I'm a mom of two, and I know when I was pregnant, it was very difficult for me to do that. So Yanni, I would like to thank you. You are a powerhouse of a woman. And as I wrap this up, I'd like to ask you, what is your parting message for our viewers today?
Well, first, Paige, thank you for inviting me again, and thank you for the kind words. I guess my parting message is just take action all the time. Take action, but don't forget also to celebrate your wins, no matter how big or small. That's the secret sauce to Canva, I think. The team is empowered to, you know, work hard and really set crazy big goals. But one of the best things our founder Melanie Perkins told me was, you know what, Yanni, every great goal needs a great celebration. So don't forget to have fun along the way.
Love it. Love it. So, guys, once again, if you love this segment, make sure that you share it with your friends and your loved ones because chances are it will change your life, but it will also change your friend's life. And our mission here at Elevate Filipino TV is that together we will rise. Together we will shift the culture and be elevated Filipinos. My name is Paige, and this is my dear friend Yanni, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.